Mike Gallagher.
You know, in the book department, in the author department, I'm no Victor Davis Hanson, but I did write a couple of books, and one of them was 50 Things Liberals Love to Hate. I forgot that chapter 1 was McDonald's. Wait till you hear what McDonald's is going to do with Happy Meals and kids. Everything the left touches turns to garbage. In fact, with our prison fellowship campaign, I think I got to get some copies of 50 Things Liberals Love to Hate. I mean, whether it's the V8 engine, football, American flag pins, McDonald's, steakhouses, the Founding Fathers. I had some nice comments, and it became a New York Times bestseller. Like at the bottom, but that's okay. I was happy with that. I'll start signing some copies and selling them to you for, I think, $99 for a signed copy, and it'll put a smile on your face. Victor Davis Hanson puts a smile on our faces and makes us think. He's a smart guy, an American classicist, military historian, political commentator. He's the guy who wrote The Case for Trump in 2019, but has a recent book out that I want to tell you about. Just went on sale a week or so ago. Victor Davis Hanson, welcome back, sir, to the Mike Gallagher Show. How have you been?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me, Mike.
It's my pleasure. I want to talk about this fascinating book, The End of Everything, How Wars Descend into Annihilation, because, boy, we need some guidance with what's happening in Ukraine and Israel. We'll get to that in just a moment. But, of course, the big breaking news in the last day has been Trump and Biden agreeing to a debate. It seems to me, with all the noise associated with that, of course, the deck is going to be stacked against him. Of course, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are going to favor Biden. Nonetheless, to get Biden on that debate stage, Victor, has got to be a huge win for Donald Trump, because millions and millions of Americans are going to be reminded of what his policies really represent and who he is.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think Trump, he did very well in the second debate, but I think he's going to have to be careful. He shouldn't try to rattle Biden's cage, because the longer you let Biden talk on his own, the more trouble that he gets into. And if you just don't interrupt him and let him continue, he runs out of, I guess, grammar and syntax very quickly. So I think Trump can do very well. It's a little weird, though, but that it's before the conventions. I'm trying to figure out whether he wanted it that way so they wouldn't dump him at the convention. It would be awkward to say that our nominee has already debated the opponent on the Republican side and now we don't want him. Or maybe they wanted to have some leeway by putting him out there and see how he does. And if he doesn't do well, maybe they'll cancel him. I don't know what the idea, but it's very strange to have him so desirous to debate so early. And he's going to, as you said, he's going to warp the entire landscape in his favor, but I don't think it's going to be enough. We should remember very quickly, though, in the first debate in the State of the Union, I don't know what the protocol is with him, but it seems like they cut his work week down to almost nothing in the days prior to his public appearances, like the State of the Union, and then they might give him Adderall or something. But he's not cogent, but he's animated, and I think Trump's got to be aware of that he comes out almost hyperactive for about an hour and a half, and then he kind of crashes. So they can, for a brief moment, they can they do something, because the State of the Union was the same thing. He was almost shouting and screaming for over an hour.
Now, he's really animated, but of course, like you said, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It seems peculiar.
No.
There's something, it's like an altered state, isn't it?
It is. It is. I don't know if it's some type of upper, or it's just they've made him change his time cycle so he can stay up late. But
Right.
I think the first debate, Trump was advised to, rattle his cage, and I don't think that worked, because Biden is his own worst enemy, and the longer you let him try to explain what he's trying to convey, the less he can do it. And Trump has actually got a very good memory, and when he gets on the issues, he's very comprehensive, and people don't appreciate that about him, but he's very informed. And when anytime he talks about crime or the border or energy or foreign policy, that's at his best moment. It really is.
I'm actually surprised at the amount of people who are agreeing with my theory that this might be a setup for Biden. If he tanks, if he does very badly on June 27th, then the handwriting's on the wall. They're going to know there's no way this guy's going to win. Because this is all, I mean, frankly, I think it was Karl Rove or somebody yesterday said this is a Hail Mary. This is a last ditch effort
Yeah.
because Biden, if you're leading, if you're winning, if you're confident, you don't need to debate. You could say, "Oh, I'm not going to sully my reputation by being on a debate stage with somebody like Donald Trump." So a lot of people are saying they're trying to set Biden up here and then bring somebody in at the 11th hour, maybe at the convention, to replace him. And it sounds to me like you think that theory might have some merit.
Yeah, I do. I think both sides are trying to game each other. I think the anti-Biden force, the donor class, the anti-Kamala Harris people, they're going to put him out. They're going to say, you know what? If we'll give him one last chance. If he
Yeah, yeah.
stars and he's spectacular, then okay. And then I think the Biden people are saying, well, maybe if we just are workmanlike, we just get through it, and we're the
Mhm.
official nominee, and we've already debated, it would be very awkward to toss.
Yeah.
So I think they both think that they've got something going against the other faction.
Visiting with Victor Davis Hanson. His new book is out, The End of Everything, How Wars Descend into Annihilation. One last comment about, and get your take on this weaponization of the court system and what we've seen them do to Trump. Like right out of a banana republic, try to put your political opponent behind bars. I was so glad to see Speaker Mike Johnson, other prominent Republicans hold press conferences outside the trial in New York. That's what has to happen. I mean, Victor, I can't believe that Americans' heads aren't exploding over this obvious, transparent effort to say if we can't stop him the legitimate way, let's at least try to get him convicted of crimes. Maybe that's the way we stop him. Are you kind of worried about what seems to me to be a muted response, not only from the American people, but to Republican leadership over this lawfare against Donald Trump?
I am. I'm a little bit encouraged that the polls keep going up for him, but I think everybody's starting to realize that no one has ever been charged with any of these crimes. A phone call to a registrar, they do it all the time. Uh,
Right.
Assets that you get a loan for and the loan's successful, nobody cares about that. In the case of Letitia James, nobody cares about a campaign. I mean, Barack Obama was fined over $300,000 for a campaign violation. Hillary over 100,000. Nobody sought to criminalize those civil infractions. So I think everybody thinks, if he hadn't run for president, if he wasn't a Republican, they wouldn't do it. No one is ever going to be tried for these crimes again. This was a one-time thing. And this is obviously weaponized. And I think that most people, the polls show, think it's coordinated with the White House, which it is. But
Sure.
I think if he wins the Bragg, and I think he's got a 60-40 chance of getting a couple of jurors for a mistrial, then I think the others are going to fall apart because I think people are going to say, you know what, Fannie Willis has got so many problems. She likely lied under oath. You can't have a prosecutor lie under oath. And if
Right.
they transfer that case to another jurisdiction, no one wants it. And I think Jack Smith is in trouble, not just with immunity, but tampering with evidence, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't see that thing going anywhere either. So,
Yeah.
and I think Letitia James will be reversed on, I don't know, the Eighth Amendment. I mean, it's cruel, unusual, excessive bail and fines, it seems to
Yeah.
me. So I think if he can beat the Bragg thing, it's like a domino. The rest are going to fall.
All right, you've written or edited 26 books, hundreds of articles. I can't wait to get my hands on The End of Everything. It warns readers that modern societies are not immune from the horrors of a war of extinction. We have such vulnerability right now worldwide. Tell us a little bit about what sparked you to write this book and what the message is. What's the big takeaway from your new book, The End of Everything?
Well, I had noticed over the years that there were few societies that, unlike most wars, when they lost, they were annihilated, erased. I mean, everything, civilization, language. And so I picked four of them, the most iconic: the city-state of Thebes at Alexander the Great leveled, of course, Carthage that Scipio Aemilianus destroyed down to the foundations, and all the Carthaginians in it. Constantinople and the end of Christian Byzantine civilization in Asia, and then Cortez's erasure of the Aztec Empire. And I want to know why this happened. And what I came up with is these magnificent, I mean, magnificent in the sense of large and powerful societies had no idea of the vulnerability they had descended into. They were confident their walls had never been breached, or their defenses were always as they were, even though the military insidiously was weakening. They had no idea who the people were outside the walls that wanted to destroy them. I mean, these were not Genghis Khan or Tamerlane. These were philosophers. They were very scary people. Alexander the Great, who was tutored by Aristotle, Scipio, who was an intellectual, Mehmet, who had a big library, one of the biggest in the Islamic world, and they were systematic and they had an agenda that they thought these people are antithetical to our values. We're tired of
Yep.
them. Now we have the ability to destroy them, and they're naive and they still live on the fumes of
Wow.
past glory. And then I have a long epilogue where I look at all the people in the contemporary world: Kim Jong Un, Recep Erdogan in Turkey, the Chinese
Mhm.
communists, Vladimir Putin, who have not just said they're going to defeat their enemies, they're going to wipe them out.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how we discount that, given the real problems we're having with our
Yep.
military, our finances, our border. And I think we're kind of delusional ourselves.
Can't wait to get my hands on it. It's available now everywhere books are sold. The End of Everything: How Wars Descend into Annihilation by the great Victor Davis Hanson. Thanks, Victor. Great seeing you again. Keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you, Mike, for having me.
Appreciate you very much. Take care.